Okay, I'm gonna go again. Hey everyone, welcome to another Open Cluster Management Community Meetings. Today is 2023, April the 28th. Today on the agenda, Mohammed's gonna talk about something the community has been asking for a really long time. And thank you, Mohammed, for contributing this piece, the Manifest Work replica set. So without further delay, Mohammed, whenever you're ready, please take it away. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, thanks. Let me share my screen. You guys can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I will present today the ManifestWorkReplicaSet work we did in our contribution for this project. So our agenda today, I will just give a brief overview in the API and show example and demo, and touch base on placement strategy as well as a future work for ManifestWorkReplicaSet, and in the end, any Q&A. And during presentation, if you have any question, you can interrupt me as well. So yeah, so initially here, first is the ManifestWorkReplicaSet. I believe everybody here know what is the placement API and the ManifestWork API. So basically, the ManifestWorkReplicaSet, it's just using the placement API to like select a group of clusters, and the manifest work to define the manifest or the workload that will be applied to those clusters. So basically here, this is an example of a manifest work that run a cron job. So for example, here we use the manifest work config to define feedback rules for this job. And the workload is defining the cron job that will be running every day, for example. And then a placement reference is a reference for a placement that is select a group of cluster, like based on your environment. And here is the same, the manifest API, but here is the status part. It has two conditions. One to verify the placement, and the other one to verify the manifest work that get created for all cluster. And in the bottom here is the summary for the selection that happened. So for example, here we have a total 10 clusters that is get out of the selection of the placement comment that we have here. And all of those clusters has been applied and the manifest are available. If there are some of them are progressing, there will be a number showing here. If some of them are degrading, will be a number showing here. But all the numbers will be not more than the total, of course. And as a benefits of that, so it's obvious, like if we can deploy workload for a group of clusters, and as well as getting the feedback from those workload using the manifest work feedback rules. And is it clear so far? Any questions?
For the feedback results, but that's on each manifest work. Is it being um, aggregated into the replica set?
Well, it's not aggregated in the replica set API. It's exists in each manifest work that is created for each cluster.
Thank you.
Yeah, so maybe here I can give, so for example, this is the cron job example. So let's make a demo just to be more clear here for everyone. You guys see my terminal, yes?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay. So here, for example, I have a hub cluster that has uh, to manage the cluster. Well, okay. So I have here in this hub cluster, I have CNFDE6, but it's not connected yet. I have CNFDF2, 02, and CNFDF25. Those are the one that we will gonna apply the workload in the demo. And I have as well here um, placement as well. So I have two placement. One is placement common and one is placement by name. And I already create manifest work replica set here. The one is the cron job here. And this one, let's take a look on the one is cron job has. So this is the first demo. So here, for example, for this one here, I defined a ManifestWork template that returned the last scheduled time and the last successful time. And it's defining a cron job here that is run just a busy box. And for the sake of the demo here, it runs every minute in order to show up here the result. So for example, let's check the manifest work that is get created for based on this one. Get manifest work or CNFDF02 here. So we have it here. And if we check the cron job one here, so it will return the feedback result for the cron job example that we have. Is returning the last successful time and last scheduled time. But then let's modify the placement that we used in this ManifestWork replica set. Yeah, it's by name. Yeah, it's edit placement. What is wrong here? Yep. Okay, so what I want to show here is that when we add a new cluster, the data will get as well 25. Save this data. And then let's get the, yeah, let's check the placement. So now we have two cluster get selected. And if we get back the ManifestWork replica set for the cron job, it updates that we have now two clusters. And then if we get back again the ManifestWork or CNFDef25, it is returning the data. Yeah. Yeah, and as we see here is maybe it just need a bit time. Okay, it start returning the last scheduled time here. Similar. So every manifest work will has its own its own like returning data, not aggregated to ManifestWork replica set. This is one example of how this will benefit like the whole ecosystem. Another one is when you deploy another demo is when you deploy a subscription or operator, and you deploy your operator in install plan mode. So when we do that, as an administrator of this cluster, I will require to approve the install plan. So here, for example, when we get the so I have here defined a ManifestWork replica set for storage operator. And it's basically have our two clusters, CNFDF 02 and 25. And it has a placement common, and it just deploy the subscription. And here in the top of the feedback, it returned the install plan reference name and the state of the subscription. So if we, for example, get back the ManifestWork replica set for job, just not to miss the name, I guess. For example, here it's returning the install plan name, which is install whenever number, and upgrade state is upgrade pending. It's waiting for me as an administrator to approve the install plan. And if I get this for the other cluster, which is 02 here, it gives another name. So the install plan is get created for every subscription with like a generic name, generating name that is used. So as an admin, I will need to know the install plan name in order to run another batch or job that approves this install plan. This is another benefit of using the ManifestWork replica set with ManifestWork like feedback rule status to show up the information. Yeah, so good so far. Any questions? So this is the second. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I can see the delete option in this API, right? We don't support delete options and configuration.
Delete option?
Yeah, in ManifestWork, we have a field named delete option.
Yes, yes.
We can often.
Yeah, it's available. Yes, so it's orphan or whenever how you define in your in the ManifestWork delete option, like if it's orphan or selective or by default it's cascade, I guess. So if you define that here, if you define it here under the ManifestWork template, it's basically same as the ManifestWork API. There is no change. We use the same API. And if it's defined here, it will be like cascaded or orphans or selected based on how you define it.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And of course, if one of the cluster that is selected from the placement get removed, the ManifestWork will get deleted as well. So, for example, in our example here, I added cluster CNFDF 2.5 to the placement. So the ManifestWork replica set realized that the cluster has been added, and it create the ManifestWork for it. If the cluster get deleted or like this deselected from the placement, will happen the same. The ManifestWork will get deleted for this cluster, and things will be the same in the same flow.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, and here. So here, here is the placement strategy part. So so while we developing this ManifestWork replica set, we come with the situation or use cases that require the workload to be deployed in a progressive way. Like if you have a large scale environment, large scale cluster environment or production ready environment, You don't want to deploy all your workload or deployments for all cluster at the same time. You want to deploy them progressively, like 5 cluster at a time, 10 cluster at a time. And you may want to have a kind of affinity group, first affinity clusters, similar to canary clusters concept. So we come to the idea that defining those cluster groups or a progressive way of deploying the workload, it's better to be defined in the placement API as a placement strategy field. And it's basically we let the end user, after he select the criteria for the clusters in the placement, he then decide how those clusters should be grouped. Does it like should be grouped based on number of cluster groups? So here, for example, I have a 300 cluster. So I have each group to be 150. Or I can set like a 50%. Like, so each group will be 150 as well. If I make it 20, for example, so each group will be like around 80 or 60 based on the total number of clusters selected. As well as you can define an affinity group, which mean you need this group to be the first group to be selected in order to do whatever workload apply you want to do. And then in the placement status, this group classification will be presented in the placement. So as a ManifestWork replica set, when we start applying the workload, it can fetch group by group here to apply the workload. And then if the first group is satisfied, move to the second group. If satisfied, move to the third group and fourth group and so on. The proposal is still not approved yet. So I encourage everyone, if he can take a look, give a feedback, that would be much appreciated. But yeah, but the future work for the ManifestWork replica set is to have this kind of like let end user have this kind of progressive workload apply, either with Canary or affinity cluster group, or like based on how the user will define the cluster groups. And pretty much that's all what I have for the demo. Any questions? Any
That was a great summary and a great demo. Thank you, Mohammed. For the ManifestWork replica set, the I think the field name is ManifestWork templates. So is there any plan to support like Go templates or something like that, so we can do some variable replacement, or I mean value replacement, dynamic value replacement?
Well, as of today, it's basically using the ManifestWork API here. So, like if the ManifestWork API at some point can like use the Golang templating, so then we can, of course, adding it here as well. Because like at the end of the day, we create ManifestWork for each cluster. So I believe it should go first through the ManifestWork, and as the ManifestWork API support that, it will be supported by the replica set.
Got it. Thank you. But but from the community feedback, one of the thing is it's more useful on something a higher level, like the ManifestWork replica set, because usually what they are asking for is on cluster one they want to do something like this, and then on cluster two they want to do some another value. So since ManifestWork is only for a single managed cluster, usually it doesn't require that type of dynamic templating. So, anyways, yeah, I think we can discuss this offline. Thank you for the explanation.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a good idea. It's just maybe need like more, thinking about it, but it's a good idea. I really think it will be benefits, like the use cases in general. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to second that. I think it's a good enhancement. We could add an enhancement doc and talk about it.
Okay.
Should I stop sharing my screen?
Well, are there any other question for Mohammed?
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I have one question for the page 7.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, could you help explain why? I'm wondering why for the placement decision, why the first two group each have 5 clusters selected? Could you help explain more for that?
Yeah, of course. So for this example, this placement strategy, it has affinity group defined as well. And the affinity group is defining like a subset of the large cluster set that you define in your placement. So those cluster is like a canary example, like have the keyword label canary, for example. And then you need as an affinity group percentage, you need to have those clusters be like in 50% group. So for example, here I have 10 clusters in canary, get out of this canary selection, they are in 50. So there are 2 groups. First group is affinity group true, and it has 5 clusters. And the second group is the affinity group as well, and it has 5 clusters, which satisfy the 50% out of 10 cluster come out of this match expression canary. And for the total number of cluster that is get selected, as a user, I want to have in each group maximum number of 150. So for a 300 cluster, I will have another 2 group. One is first one has 150, which is the first percent, the first half, and the second half will have 140, like missing 10, that is go for the canary. But then if you have like a 320, for example, so a fourth group will get created as well. So it's based on the total number of cluster that is get selected out of the placement. Every group gets shaped based on the placement strategy definition. Is it clear so far, or I make it more complex?
Okay, I see. So you can define 2 percentage here. One is for the
Yes.
affinity group,
Yes.
another is for the whole. Oh, yeah,
Yes,
thank
exactly.
you.
Yeah. Or
I
you,
get it.
if there is no affinity group as well, like if this part does not exist, so it will be just 2 groups. Each group has 150, So it depends on how you define. Just example to show all the cases like.
Okay, get it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Are there any other comments or questions? If not, thank you so much, Mohammed.
Yes.
That was a great presentation and great demo.
Yes, appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
Anyone have anything they want to bring up? Josh, do you want to? Okay.
No, I was just going to thank Mohammed as well for bringing this enhancement from beginning to end. It's well, it's not really over, but to a first milestone, which is really good. Thanks.
Oh, that's actually a great point. So, Mohammed, do you know if this API is available in any of the OCM release, or it's gonna be available in the next release?
It will be available in the next release. So
Got it.
like today, if you take master now or latest, it's there. But in the next release, it will be available, yes.
Got it. Okay, thank you so much, Mohammed.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, I don't think anyone have any more comments or questions. So thank you all for joining and have a nice day. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.